What are matching paragraph questions? 3. Matching paragraph information questions. Task: matching the information given in the question with information found in one of the paragraphs in the passage. Skills: identifying specific information, scanning for information. Tips: paraphrase the information in the question. Find the information in the passage. Answers do not come in order. The answer is often a letter, A, D, C, D. Read instructions carefully to check. Not all paragraphs may be used. Here is a sample task of matching features questions from Cambridge English and my suggested steps to answer them. Read the text on pages 1 and 2 and answer questions 1-8. This is an extract from a book written in the United States of America in 1971. It is about attempts to classify the behavior of young people living in the United States of America at that time. In their search for a sense of identity and a set of values consistent with this identity, some older adolescents find themselves questioning not only the standards of their parents but also the goals and values of society itself. We cannot touch upon the many factors that have contributed to this state of dissension, but it is informative to look at several lifestyles adopted by young people in an attempt to develop their own identity. It should be kept in mind, however, that even in this age of dissent, only a small group seriously questions or protests against the values of society. Most young people strive to fit into society and to achieve the adult role. Type A. These are the young people who have rejected many of society's values and are determined to protest, and in some cases even to advocate revolution, in order to change or abolish those institutions that conflict with their ideas. They feel compelled to speak out on issues they view as morally wrong, and in their rejection of authority they are willing to use civil disobedience and face possible arrest to attain their goals. According to the research of Smith, 1968, when university students active in protest movements were asked to check a list of adjectives that describe their characteristics, the items that differentiated them from a representative cross-section of students were imaginative, free and not hung up. The adjectives that distinguished the cross-section group were ambitious, foresight, orderly and conventional. When asked to provide solutions to a series of stories that posed a moral dilemma, the activists were more likely to respond on the basis of moral principles they had worked out for themselves, while the cross-section group tended to respond according to conventional morality. Block, 1968, completed research which indicated that students active in protest movements come from families of greater economic, educational and social status than the average student. Since their parents tend to be politically liberal, the behavior of these students cannot be viewed as rebellion against parental authority. Student activists describe their relations with their parents as close and affectionate. The parents were rational and permissive in their approach to child rearing, placing less emphasis on prohibitions and punishments. Type B. These young people also reject the traditional values of society but differ from the activists in their pessimism that protesting will produce any change. They have no use for long-term goals or commitment, instead they escape from society by dropping out. They tend to be estranged from their parents as well as from society. Their ideological views are not extensions of their parents' views but instead are formed in rebellion against parental attitudes. Fathers of alienated male college students, according to Kinston, 1966, are described by their sons as cold, withdrawn men who are concerned with success and status and have little involvement with their offspring. These young people reject, at the same time, the values of their parents and those of society. Type C. These are young people who are active in extreme conservative movements. They accept the traditional American values and authority structure. Many have been influenced by the individualistic philosophy of Ayn Rand. Studies of the background of these students suggest that their parents were authoritarian and apt to place a high value on achievements and goodness. Schiff, 1966, distinguishes between those youngsters whose conservative commitment came from their parents at an early age, and those who converted to conservatism in later adolescence, perhaps after being influenced by other students. The three types of lifestyles described above are, of course, not the only ones adopted by adolescents in contemporary American society. Many young people try to promote change not by rebelling against society's values but by working within the existing institutions, contributing their efforts to agencies such as the Peace Corps, for example, which provides volunteer workers for humanitarian projects all over the world. Because there is as yet little data on the background and attitudes of these young people, they were not included in our discussions. And as in all attempts to classify individuals according to types, there are probably as many young people who do not fit neatly into these categories as those who do. Questions 1 to 8. The behavior of young people is described in three ways: types A, B, and C. Classify the following behaviors, attitudes, and characteristics as typical of a type: A, B, type B, C, type C. Write the correct letter, A, B, or C, in boxes 1-8 on your answer sheet. Someone who rejects the traditions of society and revolts against the ideological views of their parents. Someone who prefers to live according to the values associated with the security of the past. Someone who, to some extent, would like to be seen as a creative thinker. Someone who does not like society's values but has doubts about the usefulness of protest. Someone who is characterized by a lack of conventional ambition. Someone who might be described as an optimistic rebel. Someone who is likely to have got on very well with their parents. Someone whose parents would have made it very clear that they wanted their child to succeed, but also to have high moral standards. Suggested step process. First, read the instructions, words to notice, behaviors of young people, 3 types A, B, and C, classify, boxes 1 to 8. Carefully read all the features and pick out keywords. Let's take feature A as an example. Our keyword here is simply type A. Scan the passage and look for keywords. We can almost immediately see that the passage is giving 3 main parts for 3 types A, B, C. Now, get right into reading type A paragraph. Read the part of the passage that contains keywords. It seems like we should go through all the information here, but there are some other keywords that need to be underlined. Rejected many of society's values, determined to protest, advocate revolution, change or abolish those institutions, compelled to speak out, imaginative, free, not hung up, close, affectionate, rational, permissive. You're ready to match the features with the questions. Although there are 8 questions to start with, they'll reduce right after finding out questions to match with feature A. 1. Someone who rejects the traditions of society and revolts against the ideological views of their parents equals people in type A reject many of society's values, but they have a close and affectionate relationship with their parents equals not match. 2. Someone who prefers to live according to the values associated with the security of the past equals for keyword reject many of society's values. This is not type A equals not match. 3. Someone who, to some extent, would like to be seen as a creative thinker equals creative can go perfectly with imaginative, free and not hung up equals match. For someone who does not like society's values but has doubts about the usefulness of protest equals for keyword determined to protest, we can say people in type A believe in protest equals not match. 5. Someone who is characterized by a lack of conventional ambition equals although we have the word conventional in type A paragraph, it's used to describe a cross-section group. The adjective conventional is also quite contradict with creative in matched question 3 equals not match. 6. Someone who might be described as an optimistic rebel equals for keywords determined to protest, advocate revolution, change or abolish those institutions. This is true equals match. 7. Someone who is likely to have got on very well with their parents equals, as we've discussed in question 1, this is true equals match. 8. Someone whose parents would have made it very clear that they wanted their child to succeed, but also to have high moral standards equals with keywords rational, permissive. This is not true equals not match. Now it's your turn to complete questions 2 to 8. Don't look at the answers below before giving your own ones. 1. Type B. 2. Type C. 3. Type A. 4. Type B. 5. Type B. 6. Type A. 7. Type A. 8. Type C. 3. Matching paragraph information questions. Task: matching the information given in the question with information found in one of the paragraphs in the passage. Skills: identifying specific information, scanning for information. Tips: paraphrase the information in the question. Find the information in the passage. Answers do not come in order. The answer is often a letter, A, D, C, D. Read instructions carefully to check. Not all paragraphs may be used.